Welcome to EduRev.
Later on, men started to realize about tools. Now, tools were first made of stones. There were different types of tools and there were different uses of tools. Mainly, the tools were used to either kill animals, or if an animal has been killed, to take off the skin, because the skin was not eaten, the flesh was eaten, तो खाल को अलग करना, or to cut down the plant, cut down the tree. उन सब चीज़ों के लिए the stone tools were used. अब stone tool भी दो तरीके के होते थे. पहला stone on stone, मतलब एक stone है, उसके ऊपर आप किसी को रखो, किसी को उसको आप पत्थर से मारना शुरू करो. अब दैट इज नॉट वेरी इफेक्टिव, राइट? बहुत ज़्यादा इफेक्टिव वो नहीं होता है, बिकॉज अभी भी आप किसी चीज़ को आपको मारना होता है, या यू हैव टू टेक आउट समथिंग, यू नीड समथिंग पॉइंटेड. आप खुद देखो, आपको पॉइंटेड चाहिए होता है, राइट? तभी तो वो काम करता है. सो फर्स्टली व्हेन द टूल्स वर मेड, तो इतना ज़्यादा नॉलेज नहीं था. वी जस्ट यूज्ड टू हिट स्टोन ऑन स्टोन. उसके बाद लेटर ऑन वी रियलाइज कि भाई स्टोन को हम लोगों को स्ट्राइक ऑफ फ्लेम, वी नीड टू स्ट्राइक ऑफ द फ्लेम, मतलब अलग अलग तरीके से काटना पड़ेगा और एक शेप देनी पड़ेगी ऐसे पॉइंटेड तरीके से, नुकीली तरीके से, सो दैट दे कैन बी मच मोर इफेक्टिव. एज वी लर्नड दिस नॉलेज, जैसे जैसे पता चला भाई स्टोन कैसे बेटर हो सकता है, टूल्स कैसे बेटर हो सकते हैं, इट हेल्प्ड अस इन इंक्रीजिंग आवर एफिशिएंसी, इन किलिंग मोर एनिमल्स, गेटिंग मोर फूड, इन किलिंग और इन कटिंग डाउन मोर प्लांट्स एंड ट्रीज. Now, about 12,000 years ago, यहाँ से मतलब 12,000 years ago के आसपास अगर आप जाओगे पीछे, मतलब 10,000 BC, वहाँ पे जाके there was a lot of major changes in the environment. तब तक we were still in the ice age, मतलब तब तक there was a lot of cold weather. In cold weather, the problem is that most of the plants will not grow. There are only few types of animals जो कि होंगे. But 12,000 years ago, the weather conditions started to change. वार्म वेदर स्टार्टेड टू अराइव. अब जब वार्म वेदर की आप बात करते हो, इट ब्रॉट अ लॉट ऑफ चेंजेस. द आइस स्टार्टेड टू मेल्ट, पानी बन गया, तो फिश आ गई. फिशिंग बिकेम वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. अभी तक क्या था कि जंगल में, इन द फॉरेस्ट, यू हैव टू रन आफ्टर द एनिमल्स, राइट, टू किल देम, टू फाइंड फूड. नाउ देयर इज अ पॉन्ड, देयर इज अ रिवर, यू नो भाई इस पॉन्ड में मछलियां हैं ही हैं, सो यू जस्ट हैव टू कॉन्संट्रेट इन दैट एरिया. सो इट बिकेम ईजियर फॉर अस टू फाइंड फूड. Also because of this, lot of rice, wheat, barley used to grow. Rice, wheat, barley, all these fodder crops, they cannot grow in very cold environment. अभी तो रशिया में या कनाडा में जहाँ इतनी ठंड होती है, वहाँ ये सब नहीं होता है. They grow in moderate environment. So when the warm conditions arrived, more food could be produced, और यहाँ से fishing also became a good source of eating. Also, at this time, people started to settle down slightly. कहाँ रहते थे? अभी obviously they did not have much knowledge to make their own houses, so they used the caves. There were mountains में caves cut out की जाती थी, और वहाँ से आकर के उन लोगों ने caves में रहना शुरू किया. Now when people started to live in caves, they also started to draw something on the caves, and that is how we see fascinating rock paintings, जो अभी हमें यूपी, मध्य प्रदेश कई जगह पे दिखती हैं. Near Bhopal, there is a very famous cave called the Bhimbetka Caves, not very far from Bhopal. The rock paintings are found even today. Just imagine the kind of color that was used, that is still existing even today. Most of the color, it is said, was derived from flowers, was derived from plants, and that was such high quality that it is existing even today. They drew about their life, about how they live, about the animals, etc. Slowly but surely, from gathering food, we turned into cultivators. That is when people started having knowledge about the seeds. How do the seeds grow? Can we use the seeds to grow our own crops or not? Also, now when you start to grow your own crops, obviously you have to protect it, and you have to settle down at a single place, because the crops will not grow overnight. अगर आपने कुछ उगाया है, it will take some time, some weeks, some months to give you the food. So people now started to settle down. Also, with settling down came the need of pottery. When you are cultivating something, you will not cultivate for 1 day or 2 days, right? You will cultivate for the entire season. So now, how do you store the food? How do you store these things? That is when pottery was also needed. To protect your agriculture, to protect your place where you are living, people also started to tame animals. Animals को पालना शुरू हो गए. क्यों? अब भाई कहीं रहोगे तो कोई हमला कर देगा तो obviously you have to be safeguarding against other animals, wild animals. So taming of animals भी शुरू हो गया. The first animal to be tamed was a wild ancestor of dog. जैसे आज के dogs हैं उन्हीं के जंगली ancestor आप कह सकते हो, वो पहले पाला करते थे to protect their own agriculture and to protect themselves. Different types of people in different parts of India had different types of arrangement रहने के लिए. An interesting type of arrangement was found in Burzahom. Burzahom, which is in today's Jammu Kashmir. If you see, this is the location of Burzahom, so in today's Jammu Kashmir. In Burzahom, for example, pit houses were found. अब pit houses क्या होते हैं? Pit houses मतलब कि गड्ढे में जाकर के, so जमीन के नीचे उन्होंने खोद करके घर बना लिए. So for example, this is ground level. यहाँ पे खोद करके उन्होंने घर बना. This is one room, this is other room. इस तरह से there were steps that could lead down. सीढ़ियाँ होंगी नीचे जाने के लिए and you can live. Now, why did they do that? Because ऊपर घर बनाना to make house above the sea level or above the ground requires a lot of knowledge. कैसे छत बनेगी, कैसे linter पड़ेगा उसमें, how do you make it sustainable? So people found it easier to make houses below. Secondly, it protected them against bad weather, so it was easier for them. It protected them against animals also. So that is why the pit houses are a fascinating find that we see in Burzahom in Jammu Kashmir. Also, at this time, a lot of tools were found which were different from the earlier tools. Earlier tools were called Paleolithic tools because these were different. These are now called the Neolithic tools. So Neolithic was a different age altogether, where a lot of advancements were seen, like pottery, like agriculture, like domestication of animals, etc. This brings us to the end of this part, but I would like to test your knowledge with two questions here. Question number 1 is on your screen, you can read it. In the context of wheat and barley, there are two statements that you need to understand. First, men and women began to grow crops such as wheat and barley at first. Second, these crops were grown in the Himalayan and the Vindhya hills. Which of these is correct? Take a couple of seconds or 5 seconds of your time and think about it. If you remember, we discussed this as one of the first facts in this lecture. This statement is incorrect while the first statement is correct. Why? Wheat and barley were indeed the first crop grown in Suleiman and the Keithar hills. On the other hand, in the Vindhya ranges, rice was grown. So in the Vindhya ranges, wheat and barley were not grown, rice was grown. So that is why the answer here would be A. Similarly, the second question is about the word India. Which of these is correct? First, the Greeks and the Iranians came to India through northwest about 25 years ago, called our land the Hindus or the Indus, that is the land to the east of the river. Second, the word Bharat was used as a group of people or also mentioned in the Rigveda. Which of these is correct? If you remember correctly, both these statements were the ones that I told you earlier in the class. So the answer here is C, because both these statements are indeed correct.